My babies, how are we today? Today's video is true knowledge comes from the experience, experiencing the way. Information comes from practicing, training, and applying. And then I highlight attitude is represented by a train of thoughts. Where true knowledge is from experience and experiencing the way. Information comes from practicing, training and applying. And ultimately, attitude is linked to a train of thought. Like your attitude is literally your train of thought, right? Like how I approach things, how I work with things, how I move. For some reason, I don't feel like the word move is the word I'm looking for. The word I'm looking for, because so there's a difference between me going somewhere and me moving. Right. So the word move works. But ultimately, when I'm moving, since the universe is basically, I am the center of my own universe, right? So when I'm moving, effectively everything's getting closer to me. So we can still use the word move. All right. It's one of those. I remember there was an episode of Futurama that I liked, and I remembered, and I watched it like 10 years ago or more. And it was a simple episode where basically they were trying to figure out how the plane that they drive is different than normal planes. And the Mad Doctor basically designed the plane in a way where anytime the spaceship, where anytime the spaceship is moving, what effectively happens is the ship always stays in its place, but the whole universe kind of like moves in order for wherever the target is to kind of get close to it. So it's a fun way to look at your own self, right? Because technically you're seeing everything through you. So you're not going anywhere, you're moving in that direction. And ultimately, like that movement brings whatever it is that you're moving towards closer. So all right, so true knowledge comes from the experience and experiencing the way. It's very like the way is a philosophy of the Japanese samurai, basically, Miyamoto Musashi. And the idea is from simplistic knowledge, yeah, simplistic knowledge to mastery. Uh, and the thought behind it is if you put a master guitarist and you tell them, hey man, like, here's a new instrument or here's a new technique, they will approach it in using the way that they approached becoming a master in the guitar. And they'll figure out that like the small discrepancies, I guess, and the differences between basically like becoming an engineer, a master engineer versus a master guitarist. But they will apply the way and you will be able to see it in everything. Once you find the way, once you kind of like reach mastery, you're able to reflect on how you reached it. And then ultimately everything around you kind of like has the extra flair, extra touch, where you can kind of like start from and then move forward in order to become a master. Like you've discovered the way. It can, it's just, it's in every sentence you're using because ultimately you're becoming something more than I'm better at engineering. I'm becoming a better engineer. So true knowledge comes from experience and knowledge is like because like you're getting that knowledge at the edge of understanding. And I think yes, because ultimately like you have information about something, like you know something, and then basically you understand something, and then you have knowledge about it or knowledge period that it gave you after the understanding that you can apply elsewhere and shit like this. It's what's to do with physics. physicists, the more they dive deep into particles, they kind of like always they get to a point where they go like, now that we see how intricate everything is, they kind of like will go from atheists to kind of like believers again. So there is such a thing they call a God particle. But so ultimately, true experience is not exact what you did; it's how you did it, and the correlation between what you wanted out of it and what you got out of it. Is that time you spent that basically kind of like collect collects the and creates that nugget about something, whatever it is. And ultimately, after you collect enough experiences, then you have an understanding strong enough to bring out the knowledge, right? So experiencing the way, and then you have, and then information comes from practicing, because ultimately, like, it's that relationship that I always talk about. Because like, anytime we're with anything that's happening, there's a relationship. For example, if you're looking at a tree, and I was thinking about it today, and it was a simple thought, but I was imagining as the tree grows, the tree doesn't grow from the ground, right? It's fixed to the ground, but it grows from the atmosphere because it absorbs the carbon it needs in order for it to create the leaves and branches and trunks and all this stuff. So I always imagine like anywhere there's a tree, there's like a thin layer of emptiness between like the atmosphere and the tree because that's basically where the relationship kind of like is happening. When I say always imagine, it's basically starting today. I had that image in my head. But so when you're practicing something, when you're practicing, like you're figuring out the way by experimenting and practicing. And that's where information comes because that's the information that's coming and that's gonna affect how you're interacting with whatever it is you're interacting, and it's gonna affect you and it. So so I do something, and then there's the relationship that I create by doing the something with something else because there's always the other side. The other side is going to give me information which changes how I see it, which changes the relationship and how I'm doing what I'm doing. So information comes from practicing, training, and applying. And ultimately, this combination, or at the very least, like, because these are not separate, right? Like true knowledge and information, they're basically they're two sides of the coin, I guess, because the more information you get, the more knowledge you get. Because in the middle, there's the understanding that's happening. And as you're getting better at understanding and figuring things out, ultimately what happens is you achieve true knowledge by experiencing the way you got to an understanding that allows you that kind of like design of the realm of like the limits, right? Like we both understand wood can't fly on its own, correct? And for some reason that has become kind of like common knowledge, I guess. But the reason I say that is because like we've experienced pieces of wood always falling down to a point where the realm of our creativity with wood, unless it's moving, right, or unless it's designed a certain kind of way. But yeah, it's not the best of examples. But ultimately, like it kind of creates like okay, so whatever it is that you now truly have knowledge on or understand, you're creative when it comes to it because the foundation maybe of its existence you truly captured, which is what understanding does, and which is what the true knowledge kind of like attributes, because what applies to it could possibly apply to other stuff. And then you have that source in you, that's consciousness, that connection to consciousness regarding certain things that allows you to kind of like reach out, reach into it, and kind of like explore more and more and more other different things from it. And ultimately that results in your attitude towards everything. Because like everything changes us or everything interacts with us or like impacts us. So by the time we actually get by the time we realize what the experience we're having and how we're experiencing everything. And there's always something that you're doing to get that experience, whether you're sitting still or moving. Both of them are something you're doing. Sitting still is something you're actively doing. And then basically on the other side, you have the information that you're interacting with through the training and applications of all your theories and all the knowledge that you're gaining and all the understanding that you're receiving. You're tinkering to kind of like prove if something's right or wrong. That results in an attitude, basically, which is a train of thought. That is the way. That is the way you approach things. That's your own style expressed through the actions that you normally take. And that should be enough for this video. Kind of like it's a perfect iteration. I don't know, it's a perfect iteration of where I've gotten over the past years making these videos and writing these notes. Cool beats. It's a video and I love you guys. Peace out.